The Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bond.
You're awful.
And AJ Appleton.
Sin Shoe. Mouthful.
All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. Different co-host this week. AJ could not make it, so I can't say as usual. My co-host is AJ Applegarth with me. It's Michael Tomlin jumping in and filling in for AJ, who unfortunately couldn't make it this week. But what's going on, Mike? How you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm good. Definitely thanks for jumping on. Kind of last minute switch up here, but it's all good. We'll make this work. We had you on as a guest anyway, so kind of perfect. We got a big show tonight. You kind of brought up a topic to me late last week, and I kind of hemmed and hawed on it for a little bit, but it's a good topic. You talked about groupthink and just, fantasy football groupthink and just how people are just kind of following the crowd here and whether or not that's the right or wrong thing. I think in some cases it can be, in some cases maybe not. We'll get into that a little bit in more detail later. But first, let's have some fun, man. Let's do our beer of the week.
I have a beer. Dallas Blonde.
Okay.
Sorry. I have a deep.
It's all good. I didn't tell you about the little.
Sorry.
I forgot about telling you about that. It's all good. No, it's good, man. So what do you got? Sorry.
Deep Ellum Dallas Blonde, brewed right here in Dallas. A little 5.2 blonde ale. Little citrusy, but not too much. Goes down pretty easy, but still packs a punch.
Good stuff. I've got a True Respite, a Maryland brewery close to me here. It's actually a co-beer, like co-brewery mix here. It's actually Astor Labs as well. I think they're also Maryland. It's called Space Hammock. It's 7.3.
Whoa.
Hazy IPA. I do the IPAs, man. They're good stuff.
Deep Elm actually has one. That's the only IPA I really like.
Yeah. It's like pretty much all I drink, but it's good, man. It's hoppy. It's got Centennial, Galaxy, and Citra hops. So it's hoppy, but it's not like heavy either, because the Citra kind of usually makes things pretty smooth and a little sweeter. So I like it. I'm trying to look up what I gave it here on Untapped. I believe I gave it a 4, which is pretty solid, a 4 out of 5. So I gave it exactly a 4. So cheers. All right, man. So let's jump into this, man. So groupthink. I mean, what do we mean by groupthink? So groupthink, for those of you who don't know, is just it's the thinking of the crowd. It's you said the word sheep in I wouldn't necessarily call it that, but it's the majority opinion, heavy majority opinion, and kind of everybody just kind of latching onto it, whether you believe it or not. And so, is that right or wrong? And you and I had a huge discussion on this, and we'll start with the very first one here. You said, one of the ones that you, I don't know if you're necessarily totally against it, but the fact that you have to draft a running back in round 1, that is a huge thing this year. I'll tell you right off the bat, I am in favor of it, but there are a few receivers I would make an exception for. Michael Thomas being one, Adams being another. I prefer running back in the first round because I think the drop off is pretty massive very early with running back. And just trying to get one of those elite guys, one of those workhorse guys is important for your team. And I feel like I can fill some receiver, in the later rounds. But what's your thought? Like, give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, first, on the whole groupthink, the reason I bring it up is because if we're listening to podcasts, we're reading articles, not everyone does that in our leagues. They're going to look last minute at the most well-known guys, and it becomes the kind of groupthink that happens. Mm-hmm. So that's how I think you can take advantage of it, because you know how everyone else is going to play. But to start off with a running back in the first round, to me, it's just like when everyone's zigging, you kind of want to zag in fantasy football, but you don't do it just to do it, like you'd even said. I even looked it up. The last time there were 11 out of 12 running backs in the first round, which is how it is in some drafts right now. It's 2015. Only 5 of those running backs finished as RB1s. 5 others finished outside of the top 100. And, I mean, it included big names, too. Doug Martin, Aaron Foster, C.J. Spiller, Ray Rice, Trevor Richardson. So it's happened before where we just, we need to get a running back this year. And then look what happened. Half of them you couldn't even start.
Yeah.
And like you also brought up, though, I'm not totally against it by any means. If you have a top 4 pick in any format, basically, you're taking one of those main 4 running backs, even 5 if you include Dalvin Cook. It's more for the back half of the first round where you're taking the worst end of those running back ones, but then you're still going to end up with the same receivers, which we'll get into that later. But so you're giving up any advantage you can gain in the first round and just giving yourself a disadvantage. Because obviously, whoever you take at 10 at running back isn't going to be as good as Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley, and then you're going to end up with the same type receivers in the end. And I mean, the thing that gets me, the groupthink too, is all the other groupthink in the first round is you can't win it, but you can lose your league in the first round. But now we're taking these unknowns like Miles Sanders, C.H., Kenyon Drake. We're going to take them in the first round. Like those guys could butt. Like they have more bust potential than the receivers you could get right there. And I guess that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. I think I'm probably not getting Michael Thomas in any of my leagues only because he is going in the middle of the first round, and I'd rather have a Cook or a Henry or somebody like that. Now in the back half, where you're looking at the mix-ins and things like that, I'll take a Julio, I'll take an Adams over those guys, and then get my running back on the way back because I know that one of the guys that I prefer for running back is going to be there. Now, will I also take 2 running backs there? Sure. And that has a lot to do with the next topic that I think we should just jump into at this point. Because we've been alluding to it the whole time, is the wide receiver depth. And you and I had a huge conversation about this one. I'm absolutely in agreement with this, but I want you to go first here and give your argument here.
Okay, so when you say depth, like that's saying you have a basketball team and your depth goes 9 deep because you can play 9 guys. Well, when you say wide receiver depth in fantasy football, there's only a top 24. Like there's 24 top scores. The 25th guy isn't top 24, so the depth is the same at every position as far as the rankings and how they finish. And I mean, I get it. Like I think I looked it up. Wide receiver 21 through wide receiver 34. It's only like a 20-point difference. So I get the thought.
And that's total points. It's like a point and a half per game.
Exactly. So I get it. But when everyone is waiting on their receivers, like we're saying with the groupthink, and you all end up with similar receivers, then you're not gaining anything. You're all about the same. Because like as you're saying, there's depth. So if you're all waiting for those same guys, then you're all fighting for those guys, first of all. And second of all, you're not gaining the advantage you can get by taking a guy early. I mean, it sounds crazy, but my biggest league, we got Devontae Adams in the 3rd round.
Whoa, what?
3rd round. Yeah.
No.
First pick of the 3rd round. Swear to God. Because it was like 20 running backs in the first 2 rounds. It was insane. I was like, what are the, like in the draft I just finished right before I got on. I got Michael Thomas at 10. And then I went Devontae Adams in the 2nd round. Like, it's crazy that everyone's just thinking, we got to get 2 running backs. Got to do 2 running backs. And the thing to me, though, with this wide receiver depth, yes, those guys can score for you. But wide receivers are less consistent than running backs because they're getting targets, not carries, right? And so I want those elite wide receivers that are more consistent as opposed to the ones on the back end that will have the big weeks and down weeks. And the biggest thing for me as far as loading up on a receiver early is then when I'm taking my lottery ticket players, like the league winners, which everyone's saying this year, I want to take running backs with those because if you're taking the J.K. Dobbins or the backup running backs, it's more of a sure thing when that guy can play as opposed to a receiver. You take the second receiver, it doesn't always work out where he becomes the number 1. Might go to the tight end, might go to the running backs more. So that way, if you shore up wide receiver early, then you're just loading up on all these high upside lottery ticket running backs later, and that gives you more of a chance to really hit on something.
See, to me, I'm taking my shots on the running backs early because, like, if you don't, you are getting left with. In most cases, you're sticking yourself with running backs in round like what 3 or 4, and I mean I guess at best you're looking at like a Mark Ingram, which I guess is okay. But then you're getting into the rookies too. You're getting into the Jonathan Taylors, which everybody likes. You're getting into the Swifts. Who knows what those guys are going to be. To me, I feel like you can still rely on those receivers you're getting in 3, 4, 5, right? I mean, I've gotten guys like Allen Robinson, who I absolutely love this year. I've gotten guys, like Terry McLaurin all over the place. I've gotten Devontae Parker in round like 6 or 7. It's so silly. I know we all hate on Devontae Parker, but come on, I'll take him as my wide receiver 3 or 4 in round 7 every time. That's kind of insane. I don't like the guy, but that's good value. And I'm not having to rely on him big time. He's my wide receiver 3 at best in any league I have him in. I've gotten guys like Galladay in round 3 or 4. There's guys that I can get there that have wide receiver 1 upside. Do they have Michael Thomas upside? No, but I don't need it, and I shouldn't need it if my team hits the way it should. To where if you take receivers early, you are stuck praying for an injury ahead of your running back or this guy to completely break out unknowingly. And yeah, we all have those guys in the middle of the late rounds that we think could break out, but we don't know if they're actually going to do it. I'm not hoping for a breakout from the receivers I'm getting in 3 and 4. I'm just getting consistent production. And even with the guys I'm getting in round 5, 6, 7, yeah, they're probably going to finish wide receiver 2, maybe wide receiver 3 because they finish outside the top 24 if you want to, get nitpicky with it. But they're going to have weeks where they finish wide receiver 1. So I just think that's the way you play it this year. And in our early mocks that we did on the site, whatever reason, we kept the same draft order for the first 3 of them. Yeah. I had the 4th pick. I took Michael Thomas in every single one of the first 3 just to see how it would go out. And my feeling was he's the safest player after the first top 3 running backs. And I still agree with that. But I didn't like the way my teams finished. I didn't like my running backs. And I saw the receiver depth and the receivers that were available in those other rounds that I was having to grab receiver or running backs and just hope that they were going to be good. And I'm going, man, I wish I hadn't taken Michael Thomas. I wish I had taken some running backs and just filled in my receivers with all these quality guys that are sitting here. So I get you with the wide receiver depth thing. Top 24 is top 24, but you already said it. The point per game difference you're getting from even 10 to 30 is 3.5, maybe 4 points a game total. That's not a lot. If you look at the running backs, past McCaffrey, you're looking at between him and the top 20 or something like that. You're looking at what did I say to you? A 6 or 7 point difference per game.
Yeah.
It's pretty massive. So you've got to try and go get those guys early. You got to go get the guys that you think are going to be the workhorse backs for their team. Injuries happen everywhere. You can't draft fear with injury.
But and I mean, I get what you're saying too. You don't want to rely on those backs. Although I do think you're leaving out the Chris Carsons and Todd Gurley's who are there in the 3rd round a lot now. And if that's my running back 1 and I have 2 elite wide receivers, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm seeing Carson. I'm seeing Carson creep in around 2 a lot. I've been taking him. Honestly, I've been taking him at if it's the end of the 2nd round and there's just and you called it. There's 13 running backs that go before the late 2nd round. I'm grabbing Chris Carson because I've got him ranked higher than most people. Right. But
I guess my thought is if I'm looking at the value-based drafting of it, of the opportunity cost of, yes, my running back's more short up if I take whoever. Let's just go with Miles Sanders at the end of the 1st round. And then I get that receiver in the 3rd and 4th. But the guy that took McCaffrey and Saquon are getting the same type of receivers. Like we just said, they're all the same for that 14 to 20 player range. They're all about the same. So if you're all getting the same receivers, but I'm losing 10 points a week, 5 points a week, whatever, to your top running back, that's where I'm like, man, I'm playing with lost money already, right? I mean, it goes to draft order because it's all obviously, like I said, if you're the top 5, I'm taking running back.
Right.
But the back 5, it's just I'm already chasing lost money every single pick if I'm take the running back that's so much worse than them in the 1st round. And that's what I hate doing. I'd rather have something just I can plug in Michael Tomlin, Julio, Devontae. I know I got one of the top 5 guys guaranteed, unless they get hurt, obviously. But I know I got that at least. I got all the production somewhere.
At the end of the day, it's all about total points. So if you're not getting production from your running backs, you're not going to score the total points. You could have the best receivers, but that's not going to carry. I know you're a big fan of him, and so am I. That's not going to carry a James White as your running back 1 type of thing.
We'll get to him.
That's not going to carry a James White as your running back 1. And I get it. Like PPR leagues, he's fine, but he's still inconsistent. I've owned him in my dynasty league for 5 years now, 6 years. He's got these weeks where he goes for 25, and then he's got weeks where he goes for 5. And you're like, what the hell just happened? So like that's the type of thing where I don't like relying on those PPR backs as my like locked in starters. I want them to be my flex guy or my bye week fill-in. That's the way I play it, and it's worked for me. So like I'm probably not going to change anytime soon.
Right.
So.
And I mean that's something to preface everything. You can listen to either one of us or tell both of us to screw off. You can win anyway.
Sure, yeah.
It's just about hitting those picks right.
Yeah.
So it's not like either way is the end all be all. It's just preference, really.
Yeah, it's all about like, look, I've got the confidence that, I'm able to take some of those late first round running backs. That, yeah, they're all, let's shoot darts. There's like 7 of them that are all kind of the same. They're all kind of like, depending on what site you're on, they're all in a different order, right? Once you get past Clyde Edwards-Helaire, probably on most sites rankings, I'd say. So, it goes through like Cook and Henry and then probably him because he's really risen up rankings. That 6-7 running back. Once he gets past him, there's like 5 or 6 more guys that are all kind of like, let's just roll the dice and see who comes out, right?
Right.
I have enough faith in myself and confidence in myself that I'm picking the right guy. I'm going to pick the guy that's not going to bust. That's the way I go.
See, and that's why it's two different strategies, because I have the faith in myself that I can lock in the receiver and then find a running back that's serviceable later. And I like playing that roll of the dice, I guess, rather than playing the roll of the dice in the first round.
So I'm gonna switch things up here only because like the next one was a different topic, but I want to jump to, because I mentioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I want to jump to the rookie running backs. And I'm going to say this, and because if you're willing to take the running backs later, you're going after some of those rookies. You have to. But no, you almost have to.
I'm not, though.
Because they've got that like workhorse type upside. Jonathan Taylor does. Jonathan Taylor does. Swift probably does. Carryon's not going to stay healthy. Let's be real, right? Akers does. They're going to get the work, right? So, like, volume plays, right?
Well, okay. So
the topic here, just for anybody listening at home, the topic is Michael and I know what's going on. The topic here is just Clyde Edwards-Helaire and all these other rookie running backs that are, I'm guessing in your mind, being a little inflated.
Oh, yeah.
You are not a Clyde Edwards-Helaire believer. You hated him. You wanted Davey Williams so bad. Now you've obviously had to soften that stance because of the Williams injury, but you're still nowhere near him in the staff rankings as compared to everybody else.
I just don't understand it. Like this running back class was not seen as that special all year long. Like I don't do Devy leagues, but I follow enough along to see the running back. I mean, the first one's picked 32nd, so obviously it's not that strong a running back class. And then I don't know if it's quarantine or what. All of a sudden, a couple months after the draft, this is the best. We need to take all these guys. And then you look at it, and every main rookie running back entered a situation with either an established guy or a guy with similar draft capital recently. Obviously, Damian Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that one changed. But you look at Jonathan Taylor. He goes in there. Marlon Mack was 11th in the league in rushing last year. He had over 1,000 yards. They're just going to discard him. Like, he's still going to get work. It's not like it's still going to be a a partnership.
I'll say this: they've already said like they're going to start with Mac, but they're going to ride the hot hand. Like they're already saying things that are basically like, well, no, I think I'm going opposite of what you're thinking. They're already saying things that to me sound like they're making excuses to give Taylor the ball more.
And I get what you're saying there, but I also don't think they're not going to just start giving him 20 touches a game.
No, like not right away.
And that's the other thing is a lot of these guys are going to good teams, the good teams that they don't have to rely on. That's what I'm getting to. Like even the Bills, who are really a good team now. Devin Singletary averaged over 5 yards a carry last year. He was on a 1,000-yard pace. I know he had some fumbles issues. Everyone's blown up on Twitter. Oh, he fumbled. He's going to lose his job. He's still going to get carries. Yeah. I think it's going to be almost the exact same thing as Gore and him last year. Maybe Moss gets a little more. And then you look at the Ravens. They had 2,000-yard rushers last year, and people think Dobbins just going to come in and take over. Maybe next year.
Yeah, then, I think a lot more people are with you on that one. It's the Jonathan Taylor hype that I'm a little off of Taylor just because I kind of agree with you. Mac's not going to. This is a 50-50 split in my opinion at best. Right. Maybe 60-40 Jonathan Taylor, but that's not enough.
40, he's not an RB2.
Not enough to me. Swift kind of intrigues me because I actually had him and Jonathan Taylor kind of 1A, 1B, and I sort of leaned Swift in for the draft as the best running back coming out. I liked him a lot in college. It didn't go to a great running team, obviously, but you're talking about there's a guy there, right? But it's Kerryon Johnson. Like, how much do we really trust Kerryon Johnson at this point? So he's the one who I have taken a couple of different times in drafts because he is slipping. Like, you can get him around like 5, 6.
Yeah, he's going
pretty late, in my opinion. Akers is an interesting one. I don't really know what to make of that Rams backfield. I think I said it, early on when we were doing some of our team previews and stuff like that. And we did the draft recap show. I wouldn't be shocked if Akers was the best rookie running back for fantasy this year.
I tweeted that after the draft. Everyone was talking about Zogas. It's like, well, Akers kind of goes to the best situation.
Yeah.
And then I know
obviously Damian Williams.
Now.
So that changes things. Yeah. But before it was Akers, like he was in that situation.
Yeah, I was kind of in on Akers, but then I'm watching Hard Knocks. They haven't shown him once. I'm like, if they were really like focused on this guy and he was going to be the stud, every year the rookies is who they really focus on. They haven't shown the guy once.
Weird.
I don't know if that's just like a okie doke on us or what, but that kind of worries me that maybe he's got, pass pro issues or something that they're not as high on him and they still want Darrell Henderson. Either way, he's not as bad. I mean, what is he, 66, RB 27? I'm not as mad about that. The Swift one. The only I get where you're coming from. Kerryon gets hurt. But what if Kerryon doesn't get hurt? Last year, at this same exact time, every single one of us in the fantasy industry was like, Kerryon's a guy. We want him. He's going to be a stud.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt again.
But I think he's talented, but his knees, man.
If he gets 12 rushes, he gets 15 PPR points a game.
Yeah.
He can't ever get to that.
I like Kerryon. I've owned him multiple times now. He can't stay in the field. He's just one of those, he's got chronic knee issues at this point. Yeah. I just don't know how much I believe in him staying healthy. I mean, I've been surprised before by players all of a sudden randomly getting healthy, but it just doesn't seem like he's going to be one of those guys. So I'm kind of with you on the rookie running backs, honestly. I'm not in love with them. I don't get enamored by them. I don't get enamored by the rookies as much as a lot of people do. I rarely draft them. It's got to take a special talent like a Zeke coming out, or like Saquon his first year. I was all over him in the first round. I was like, those guys are special players, like really special players.
Those guys we knew. I think we're trying to make CEH that. I mean, I looked today at his projections, his fantasy pros. So I'm just going by them, not even my own. Fantasy pros average projections. They have him at almost 5 yards per carry and 9 yards per catch. That's right with McCaffrey and Saquon running, and that's way above everyone else in catching the ball. So we think this guy is going to come in and be the most efficient back in the league. That's just not going to happen. So if you're taking him in the first round, you're taking him at the absolute ceiling of production.
Yeah, I will not have any CEH on my team. I know I've got him ranked that high, but he's just going to be one of those players I'm going to probably fade. It's just everybody's just going, oh, the scheme, the offense, Kareem Hunt. And I'm like, I get it, man. But there's also still, 3 or 4 other capable running backs there. Maybe not as talented as him, and they're all saying Andy Reid even is saying like, Edwards-Helaire is the guy. But I don't know.
And we hadn't even talked about COVID and how these guys got limited contact, and now they have 0 preseason games for the biggest part of all, protecting Pat Mahomes, which is the biggest factor in that team.
Yeah, I've been saying
if they're not sure he can do it.
I've been saying it like every show that there's a big reason why I'm a little lower on the rookies than a lot of people, and that's the reason more so than anything else. We also was just like don't know. We've already seen it come out from multiple camps that the established starter from last year is going to be the guy starting week 1 in a lot of those situations because you haven't seen these rookies yet in game action. You just don't have any idea. And Swift has been kind of banged up too, so that hasn't helped. So. Yeah, well, it's gonna be interesting with these guys.
And that goes to I've seen some people say like, well, they'll come on by week 8 and then they'll be the best guy. I'm like, if you're using a first for CEH, but like a 3rd or 4th round pick on Jonathan Taylor, and he's not really gonna produce for you until week 8 or 9, like you're already out of it by then.
You're done.
The 3rd round pick is doing nothing. Like you can't depend on something on the come in 8 weeks and hope that you're still in contention for the playoffs.
Yeah,
I just don't get that part.
I don't get it either. Like, I get that you can't draft super safe everywhere.
Right.
And this rolls right into the topic that we skipped. Right. So perfect segue, man. I get that you can't draft safety everywhere. And you got to go a little upside play, but to go upside because the guy might finish the season. Like, let's be honest. The guys who had Miles Sanders last year, how good were you feeling after the first half of the season? You weren't, and you were probably 2-6.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell were you doing with your team? So, like, this group think that, and there was a huge Twitter debate about it. I'm not going to call out names. Everybody's probably seen it. About upside wins championships. It was all these people who have James White ranked ahead of Akers and Rojo was the thing. This was obviously before Fournette landed in Tampa. Is crazy. You're just drafting safety and upside wins and I agree.
Accuracy competition.
Yeah, you're just ranking to win an accuracy competition.
Is that the point?
I mean, right? I rank based off of who's going to finish with total points. Yeah, there is some. I just don't want to draft this guy, so maybe I'll dip him a couple spots lower. But yeah, I mean that's really what it comes down to. But also, yeah, I get that upside is going to ultimately win you the championship. You can't be safe and boring and draft a bunch of James Whites who are going to, James White's going to finish what? Late RB2, early RB3 maybe. That's fine. Is that going to win you anything? He might win you some weeks. He's consistent. Yeah. But, consistent enough, I guess. I told you earlier that he's going to have these blow up games and he'll have down games, but he'll be kind of steady Eddie in the middle because he's PPR back. He'll catch some passes. Akers could be a total 0, or he could be an RB1. We have no clue. Right. I get taking that upside, but sometimes I think your roster composition comes into a play. 100%. There's a point where you can take risk, and there's another point where you don't want to take risk. You got to have some safety guys. You got to have some safety nets where okay, if these couple guys who I took a chance on don't work out, I've got these guys to kind of back me up and kind of fill in the gaps until I can find their replacement. That's my feeling. I don't know how you go about it.
No, yeah, of course. And so if you were to go CEH, obviously you don't want to go Cam Akers. You'd probably want to go James White. And that's just, and I mean, I get the upside thing. It's the term du jour this year, that and league winner. I've seen that more than I've never heard it until this year. Now everyone's saying it. But I mean, I get it. Last year in my biggest league, we scored the second most points anyone scored in 5 years in the semifinal, and we lost to the most points anyone scored in 5 years. So I get it. Upside is how you win the championship. It really is. It's a factual statement. But you can't draft every pick with upside, like you said. And it's weird because you see these guys that say upside and the guys in that argument you talked about, they both use James White and Tariq Cohen as guys without upside. Okay, well, James White last year, he was RB18 in PPR. Tariq Cohen was RB27. In 2018, James White was RB7 and Tariq Cohen was RB11. So those guys are going as the 32nd and 33rd running back in the 9th round. So a 9th round pick that just 2 years ago in the same offense with the same coaches was an RB1. And in both of those backfields, there's injuries to other backs that were supposed to get more of the early down work. Like, how do those guys not have upside? Like, that's a definition of upside. An 8th round pick that has a safe floor, mind you, and also has already finished as an RB1 in that system. Like, I just don't get why that's not upside too. Just because they're not a rookie and they're not young players, so it's not as fun to talk about. I don't
everybody wants a new flashy toy, man.
Exactly.
That's what it really comes down to. And
first. That's
everybody wants to be. Everybody wants to go. See, I knew it. Ha ha ha. Take their victory laps. I get it, man. I'm just not one of those guys. I make fun of you on Twitter with the Rojo thing. Just it's just you and I playing. Whatever.
That one already got to me.
it's whatever, man. But like, I don't know. I'm not one to be like, if I get something right, I'm not going to be on there going, ha ha ha. See, I got it all right. I'm actually usually the one going, crap. I'm sorry, guys. I feel bad because I made all these calls and I get them wrong. Or whatever. We all get everything. We all get stuff wrong a lot.
I'm the same way. Remember a couple years ago, I said that David Johnson was the next C.J. Anderson. I was here early, but that year that I said that he was the RB1, so that didn't really work out.
Yeah. Talking about upside, we're getting a question on Periscope from Tim the Head. He's asking about Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley's got a lot of hype around him this year. I like him a lot, man. I've got him like wide receiver 15. I don't know, where do you have him in there?
I don't have my ranks right in front of me.
Yeah.
I have him right around there. I just know every time I even am close to taking him, I know Robert Woods is right there, and I have Robert Woods as like a top 7 guy.
I've got Robert Woods in top 12.
And it's always like one of those where I can take Ridley and hope Woods is there on the way back, but that's happening less and less.
Yeah.
And so I've been going Woods. Like, I don't mind Calvin Ridley. I do think his upside is a little, like, people think his upside is more than it really is. Let's see, I have him.
I mean, he was pretty monster last year for a stretch of games. He was like wide receiver 2 for like a 4 or 5 game stretch, right behind Michael Thomas, and then he got hurt, and it just like went downhill from there. He was out, but I ended up losing my dynasty league because he got hurt. Like, I would have won the championship had he stayed on that roll. I was steamrolling people because he was doing like 30-point games, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he has that weekly wide receiver 1 upside for sure.
Absolutely.
It's always going to be tough, even if he gets more targets than Julio. Julio's number 1,
right?
And
yeah,
so
it's going to be tough
really
to thrive.
He's going to take over.
But hey, there's lots of offenses that have 2 wide receivers that can thrive, and I think the Falcons is obviously one of them. They can have 2 top 10 guys, two top 12 guys, whatever. And I think Ridley's clearly right there now at this point. Year 3, right? Year 3 for him.
Wide receiver 12, year 3, yeah.
I think that's right. I mean, if anything, year 3 is you're really supposed to take off, and he was already starting to do it last year. So like, we can see really big things from Ridley this year. Julio,
for sure.
I love Julio, but Julio is on the decline. I mean, there is no doubt about it. He's still top notch. Like, I'm not saying Ridley's going to finish higher than him, but there is a point where Julio's going to have some games and you're going like, oh man, what the hell happened? It's gonna happen. Maybe not this year, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen soon. It's just gonna slap us in the face, man. So
yeah, he might fall off a cliff on us.
Yeah, he is year 30, so it's coming right around. So I know receivers could last a little longer than running backs, but that's what we're looking at. So hope we answered your question there. So yeah, upside, I get it. I think you go for upside in certain spots. I actually did a mock on Monday night on a podcast, and we were just doing the Fantasy Pros thing, and it was kind of a weird draft. Like, we were picked 5, and we took Cook, and then came back around, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the running back, and that came back to me. So I was like, you know what? I'm not reaching for a running back just to go running back. I went with Allen Robinson, who I really like this year. He was like wide receiver 6 or 7 at that point. So I was like, okay. But there was a whole ton of running backs that went, more so than I thought would have gone. But I came back around, luckily got Carson in the 3rd. At some point, like, I forget who our second receiver was. I was happy with it. It was another like good, safe. Oh, I think it was Robert Woods. I liked Robert Woods. came back around. My third receiver ended up being DK Metcalf, and I'm not a huge Metcalf guy. Like I think he's talented, but that's a point where I'm willing to go upside because like I had a good base of players that I really thought I could count on week after week with Cook and Allen Robinson and Chris Carson and then Robert Woods. 4 top-notch players who I have, ranked in the top 12 of all of their positions. I was like, okay, you know what? I'll take a chance on DK Metcalf. I know there's some other safer receivers I can take to kind of balance it out later. And we ended up getting like Julian Edelman. So I was like, okay. In a full PPR. I was like, yeah, there you go. I mean, they worked out perfect. I've got the huge high upside, and then I've got the safety net with Edelman to where if Metcalf just kind of busts, I just go, whoop, just swap him in. Just go, right in, I'll just take my 12 or 15 points from Edelman every week because of the catches he gets. Right. But hopefully Metcalf pans out and he has those games that he was having at the end of last year. So that's where I'm okay with the upside. Yeah, I'm with you. Like you're not going to win in round 1 or 2, but you can lose in round 1 and 2. Sure. You can take some huge risks and just you're dead. You're dead in the water, or unless you get super lucky. I mean, it happens. I've had it happen to me, but it's pretty rare when you lose those first few guys. Or at least 1 or 2 of them, you're dead in the water. There's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there's greater than 0 chance CEH isn't even as good as James White. That's kind of what I thought at one point. I was like, maybe just James White is going to catch 50 passes. But there's a chance that happens. And then what happens when that's your 6th pick overall? Yeah. You're done.
Yeah, it's hard. So another Kansas City Chief that you brought up to me, and I thought this was interesting, more just because of my strategy toward the position. But Travis Kelce, you're saying groupthink is, he's less valuable this year. Like last year he was going in, not that he's in tight end 1 or tight end 2, whatever you want to say. Like Kim and Kittle, mix and match him, honestly, in my opinion. But last year he was going end of the first round, super early second round. This year he's going end second, maybe third round in some leagues. So yeah, less valuable overall. You disagree with that. Why?
The guy's been the tight end 1 for 4 straight years. Like what he's the safest pick on the board, maybe outside of Michael Thomas. Like all he does is be the tight end 1. And I even pulled up the numbers because me and you had talked about it. Mm-hmm. So right now, Travis Kelce, he's projected to have 252.8 PPR points. First of all, that'd be wide receiver 6. Ahead of Chris Godwin, ahead of DJ Moore. If he was a wide receiver, he'd be wide receiver 6. And he's going after the 6th wide receiver. And so then if you look, the 6th tight end is 169.1, 83-point difference. The 12th tight end is 144.6, 108.2 points projected behind Kelce. So when you're taking Kelce, you're getting 108 points over the replacement cost. If you look at running backs, obviously the top 5, like we said, they're obviously worth more. Let's go to Derrick Henry, who I would still take over Kelce, but he's the running back 6 right now by projections. He's only 21.5 points over the running back 12. He's only 90.4 over running back 24. So Kelce is 18 points more valuable over replacement than Derrick Henry. Then if you go to Michael Thomas, who once again is like McCaffrey, he shouldn't even, there's no way Kelce should go before him. He's only 121 over 24th wide receiver, so he's barely more than Kelce above replacement. And all you got to do is go to Devontae Adams, and he's 21 points less above replacement than Kelce. So just by my personal philosophy of value-based drafting, he's really like the 7th most valuable guy in the draft. And so I'm trying to get him in almost every league. And Kittle's obviously not that far behind him. I had Fantasy Pros has him at 235, so 17 points behind him. I have him a little closer. I think both those guys, you're winning every single week at a position. And that's so valuable to have, especially a position with so much volatility and touchdown luck, that I just love that consistency.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm a wait on tight end guy. I've always been able to find, I'm not gonna say always, more often than not, I'm able to find somebody that's serviceable in the later rounds, or if I bust on my pick, I find somebody on the waiver wire because it's always somebody that kind of comes out of nowhere. I mean, Kittle did. Kittle was unknown, right? Until like that last part of that, like 3 years ago, when it was like he was on the waiver wire in my dynasty league that year, and I was like,
Dang.
oh, this guy's
What
like,
we're all doing
this guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
he's got a couple of good games under his belt. Let me take a chance. Yeah, that's worked out pretty well. But again, like who thought Darren Waller was going to do this, right? Who thought Mark Andrews was really going to I knew people liked Mark Andrews last year, but nobody liked him that much, right? Like not tight end 3 value or whatever it was, right? The thing with and it's weird because I don't know how this gets figured out here, but like I'm looking at the fantasy scores from last year. I mean, Kittle's number 1 tight end, 254 points. 15.9 average. Then I go to wide receivers. 254 would put him around Allen Robinson, which is wide receiver 8. Yeah, I mean 15 point. I don't know, man. I get you on the fact that like his total points is there. I just am still like I feel like I can find the next guy every year. And again, you're looking at tight ends. I'm thinking. Per game average, you're missing a couple points per, between 1 and 10. You're missing like 3 or 4 points a game. That's a lot. It adds up over the course of the season. Isn't it enough for me to want to take one early? I don't think so. I think I'd rather, because where you have to take Kelce or Kittle, I want a running back more often than not. Is my problem, because I want to try to hit on one of those running backs who will hopefully get me upwards of 20 points a game on average, or 16, 17, 18 points a game on average. That's where my head goes. And then if I take one tight end later, and this year I think the depth of tight end is incredible. I think there's 15 legit dudes that you can rely on this year. Are they all going to pan out? No. Just like any position, they're not going to pan out, right? But I think there's legit 15 guys that you can feel good about. All the way down to like the Jonnu Smiths. Mike Gesicki's in there. You got Doyle possibly making a comeback with tight end happy Phillip Rivers in town. People like Fant and Hawkinson. Hunter Henry's coming into the season healthy for once. Yeah, his quarterback isn't Phillip Rivers anymore, but let's not forget Tyrod made a pretty bad tight end in Buffalo pretty good not too long ago. So I think he can make Hunter Henry pretty solid. So there's some guys here that, Higbee kind of came out of nowhere at the end of last year. Is he going to continue that run? No, but I think he's going to be good. And Hayden Hurst is obviously a massive guy that, that's obviously was ranked nowhere near the top 40 last year in total points, 34 actually. I guess he had a couple big games, but he's the top 10 guy for me.
To me, it's similar to the receiver argument that there's depth, but what is it, from 6 until 20 almost? They're all about the same. And even those guys after Kittle and Kelce, you got Waller, who's obviously going to give up a lot of targets. How many pass catchers they added? You got Andrews, who had a very unsustainable touchdown rate, along with Lamar's unsustainable touchdown rate. And then Ertz, who they got Goddard, and they've been featuring him more. Maybe the hurt receivers are going to help him out more. I just think it's such an advantage you can gain, a known advantage you're gaining, as opposed to what I said, where you said you're going to take a running back and said, well, that's a disadvantage to what everyone's picked. And that's why I'm winning the position. If I get Kittle or Kelce, I'm going to win, except obviously play the other one. But you're winning every other week. And then at the end of the draft, instead of drafting 2 of those lottery ticket tight ends who you never know when they're going to score, they get the 8 targets that week, and you're trying to play mix and match, you can draft those running backs that are one injury away from being that RB1 that you need. And that I just prefer that route, I guess. It's safety first so that I can take upside later.
Yeah, see, I feel like I can still take some of those upside guys later that you're talking about. I'll take a tight end somewhere in the middle and be okay with it. And then I've got those late rounds where I can take the kind of those kind of is Richard and Richard Seville from Fantasy Spec likes to say a lot, those spec ads, those guys that you're just taking them just because, you know what, they're interesting. Let's see what happens. And if they don't work, they don't work. Because whatever, they're your round 14 pick. It doesn't matter. So, but yeah, man. So I don't know. I'm Kelce and Kittle are definitely a different breed. If they weren't basically receivers, then I don't think I would even consider them. I have looked really hard at them in every draft because they're sitting there staring me at the face. I just have never pulled the trigger. I'm always just like, you know what? I'd rather take this guy and hope he just like becomes a total stud at the running back position. And then I don't have to like hope that somebody 3 rounds later does the same thing who I feel way less confident about. But yet I feel confident about getting a Hayden Hurst in around 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever. Now he's going way earlier than that now, but that was 2 months ago. I had Hurst on all my early teams. Yeah. And now it's like I can't go anywhere near him because he's going around 6. And I was like, damn. All right, well, never mind that. Yeah. So the Hayden Hurst train has taken off. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it for groupthink. But, I mean, a great conversation, man. I'm glad you brought it up. It's something that people really need to consider. Don't just follow the crowd. Look, listen to everybody, not just us. There's a lot of people out there with great opinions. You don't have to just do what everybody else does just because that's what everybody else does. And if you do something different, you're going to get ridiculed in your draft. You know what? Yeah. How many times
it's your team?
How many times have I made fun of Richard after the draft and be like, dude, Richard, what the hell were you doing? He's won the Fantasy Six-Pack League twice. I'm like, how the hell? He just does it. So he's one of those guys, man. He zigs when everybody else zags, right? It works.
Yeah. I think our two mindsets just show there's many ways to share the sheet. It's just have your process in place beforehand, so that you know how you feel about the guys. Because obviously both of us do it completely different ways in multiple aspects, but we end up being somewhat successful. Otherwise, we end up playing 20-something leagues each.
Yeah, and another example, like Tim, who we answered the question for about Ridley, he said something a little earlier than that. He said, picking 12 in a 12-man league, thinking about running back because wide receiver is deep this year. Now, he must have missed the earlier conversation. No big deal. But, I just said, I personally tend to agree with you. Go running back, get your 2 top guys. But at the same time, like if Adams or Julio is there, like I'd probably pull the trigger on one of them at 12 because the receivers are coming back at you. At what would that be? 36?
Oh, yeah.
Pick 36? I mean, yeah, you're probably going to get some solid guys, but you're not getting
DJ Moore, Robert
you're not getting a Julio and Adams at that point. Now if Julio and Adams are both gone and you're looking at like I don't know, say you are looking at Allen Robinson at the beginning of the second round. I don't know if I do that. I like Allen Robinson, but I don't think I'd take him that early.
Yeah, I try. I mean, I'm the same with Kelce. I'm not trying to take him at 13 or 14, although I think he's valuable enough.
Probably.
I'd rather take him if I go McCaffrey or I go Saquon early than try to get Kelce or Kittle at the end of the second round.
I think the running back strategy works a lot better if you have a top 5 pick, maybe top 6 pick, because then you can get a good solid receiver coming back who's basically at that point the value, like you're saying, the value at receiver at that point is kind of the same at the middle to late second round as it is the early third, late middle third round.
You're getting the first pick of the litter, and then everyone's following you, and the running backs are worse.
Yes. That's so like, but that's the scenes where like either all my picks have been this year so far, or all my mocks have been so far. They've been all early. I haven't had a late pick yet for some reason, which I usually do, and I've got one in the Fantasy Six-Pack League. So it's going to be really interesting. I've got pick 10. I think so. It's going to be really interesting to see how I might have to do a couple mocks with pick 10 because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
There'll be 9 running backs gone. You're going to have to go Thomas.
And I'm going to go, oh no, Thomas will be gone. I know absolutely 100% Thomas will be gone before then. But anyway, all right. So that's it for groupthink, man. I think we kind of hammered that one out. That's a good talk though. Let's finish up here with some news and notes for things that have been kind of going on the last week or so that AJ and I have been able to cover, or very recent news per se. We'll start obviously with the biggie. Leonard Fournette cut by the Jags. I mean, we heard of the possibility for a long time, but I never really believed they were going to do it.
Yeah,
I
me
was
either.
like, there's no way. There's no way. Like, they're just going to run him into the ground this year and then be like, peace, go try to get money with like shot legs. They were going to try to pull DeMarco on him, right?
Yeah, he's too good. I think they're trying to tank for Trevor Lawrence, and they're just like, all right.
I guess.
you might win too many games.
And you can tell they're trying to do it. They've already traded two more defensive players. They're trade defense at this point. So now that their defense was ain't good in the first place, now it's even worse. Yeah. Fournette, so he gets cut. So let's start there. Jacksonville. What do we do with this backfield now? Who's the guy?
Stay away.
Right. I mean, guys are going to get drafted, right? There's Armstead, there's Zigbee, there's James Robinson, there's obviously Chris Thompson, right? Chris Thompson, I don't think his role changes.
No.
His role was his role. But who's the guy that's going to get the carries? Who would be somebody you try to go after maybe in round 8, 9, 10 if he's sitting there like, yeah, maybe. All right, let's take a shot. Let's see what happens.
Who's the guy that's going to get the carries? Gardner Minshew? I think his rushing goes up. I mean, the rest of those guys do nothing. We saw Armstead last year. He kind of handled it, getting the workload. Chris Thompson gets every pass now, so maybe he's worth a late-round flyer in a PPR. And then Devin, I can't say his last name. I mean, the guy's been floating around the league lately for a couple years. I'm not going to waste a pick on those guys. Yeah,
I'm not really going after him either, but at some point if they're around like 13, 14, I'll be like, yeah, sure, why not click. Well, and it's probably
Thompson maybe because they're going to be losing every single game by 20 points.
Right.
So he might get 10 catches a game, and we might look down at the end of the year and Chris Thompson had like 80 catches for 800 yards or something crazy.
And I randomly snagged him in every early league just because he was sitting there, and I was like, you know what? I like Chris Thompson. Sure, why not?
Redskins helmet.
Scott Fishbowl. No. No longer. I took my helmets away. They're over there.
Oh, sorry. The Washington football team.
Yeah, they are no longer my team until Snyder is gone, which is hopefully soon. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not really in on any of the running backs except Chris Thompson in PPR leagues. Why not take a chance here and there? But now Fournette signs with Tampa. Obviously, you were a huge Team Rojo. We were on the show here last week with John Hansen, and I called your name out. I was like, yeah, what do we think about the Tampa backfield? Team Rojo, our guy, John LaPresto. I said John LaPresto and Michael Tomlin, they love him. What are you guys, what are you thinking here with Tampa now? Like, is this Fournette's job?
I mean, you can't trust anything Arian says because he lied already about Rojo, and then he came out again today and said it's Rojo's backfield, Fournette's just depth. Okay, so it's basically going to be whoever Brady wants back there.
Yeah,
and who knows that's going to be. That could change week to week. I mean, does Rojo make the team? Is there a chance they cut him now? If they're saying they're going to keep McCoy too, I mean, there's so many guys there now. I don't see how they keep 5 on the roster. I don't know what
I think Ogunbowale is gone. I don't think he makes the team at all. It sucks because I like him. I like his talent
him too. I've never understood why they didn't just keep with Rojo and Dari and just roll with that. But then they draft Keyshawn Vaughn. What is he going to do now? Return kicks only? I don't know what.
I don't know what Vaughn's going to do.
It's full on New England Patriots mid 2010s where it's going to be a different guy every week, and I'm gonna stay away from that too.
Yeah, I think I put Fournette at running back like 34, even though he's with Tampa.
I think I just moved him up to around 30 and I haven't decided fully what to do with it yet.
I've got him in my dynasty league that I was talking about.
I got him one too.
And I put him out there on the trade block. People are like, you want a third rounder for him? And I'm like, go to hell. I'm not ready for a third round rookie pick. He's better than that, dude. Come on.
I traded him Keenan for Saquon Barkley. Remember in the
is that in that
I got rid of him at the perfect time.
Oh man, that was awesome. That's hilarious. He was like, what the hell? He was like, he tweeted this immediately after he got cut. He goes, remember when my team was good? I was like, yeah, let's go to Saquon, you moron.
You gave me Saquon for CeeDee Lamb and Leonard Fournette.
He wanted contracts. He wanted money. He wanted
flexibility.
A salary cap, which I don't blame him because that league is going to be weird. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't really like the Tampa backfield at all at this point. I was sort of starting to buy into Team Rojo. Just now, nobody. So it's whatever. Next up here, Alvin Kamara. He had some contract issues. There was talk that he was going to get traded. There was talk that he was going to hold out. He hadn't practiced for like 3 or 4 days, something like that. And nobody knew what was going on. Turns out it was actually like a back issue, and he got like an epidural shot, which is kind of crazy. But Kamara has come out and said that he's gonna play. And that they were close on contracts according to him, but now he's like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm still gonna play. So I think he's fine, but I mean, you never like to hear contract issues with players. Like, it does kind of sit with them all season. It feels like in some cases, sometimes it's motivation. Sometimes it's like, well, screw you guys. But, like, what do we think with Kamara here? Are you dropping him at all in your rankings? Or you still got him like 5?
I still got him at 4 ahead of Cook.
I'm ahead of Cook?
He might drop, yeah. And honestly, the contract, I think Peyton and that whole organization, they know they got a rapidly closing window here that they need to pay him. They need him on their team to contend. Like, he's Drew Brees' outlet. That's what makes their offense really run, that and Thomas. So I'm not worried about that as much. But to get an
this year only, pretty much, right? Brees is gone after this year. This is the last year, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, why? Like, this might be the last year you have with him, so why you're gonna want to keep him. The epidural thing, that scares me because I mean, he was not great last year, and nothing ever came out. I remember watching, like, is he hurt, and just not telling us that it came out later.
Well, he had like an MCL issue, right?
Yeah, he had an MCL issue. So how bad is his back right now? But he's just going to play through it because he's a tough guy, and so he's just going to keep playing. But we don't know, and it's going to affect it overall. So I would love to see him in one preseason game just to see how he's moving. But I guess you're just kind of. Luckily, I haven't had the 4th pick once, so I haven't taken him. But I would probably lean toward Cook or Thomas.
I've got the 4th pick in a draft coming up next week, and it's with a bunch of other analysts and stuff. Where it's like a whole Maryland type league thing. It's pretty cool that we're putting together. And AJ's actually in. I've got the 4th pick. I'm absolutely going Cook if he falls to me. Like, if he's the one that, I'm expecting obviously CMC, Barkley, Elliott, like those are the top 3, right? And then I'm going Cook. I just, I had this conversation when I had the 4th pick on the mock Monday night. It was Kamara or Cook, and the reason is I'm just not really sure what to think about Kamara right now with all this going on. And Cook has his own injury issues, but we know when he's on the field, he is a total beast.
Right.
So I'm fine with it, and that offense runs through him. The offense doesn't run through Kamara in New Orleans. It runs through Brees and Michael Thomas.
It's weird you say that because I just had like an epiphany. I would rather have the guy who's kind of a wimp that sits out when he's kind of hurt rather than the guy that plays through it, because then I start the guy.
You're stuck starting him.
And he doesn't perform, as opposed to Cook. As soon as he's hurt, he just doesn't play, which, okay, I'd put someone else in. But with Kamara, you're always going to start him because he's always going to play, and you never know.
I just think with Cook, like, he's one of the, and we did it in the mock randomly, and I've done it in a couple of different leagues. In one other league, I got him. You've got to, like, he's the one person I'm handcuffed. Like, I'm going to take Madison slightly early just because you kind of have to. Because when Cook is out, Madison's a RB1 too. Like, he's good. So you want him. Like, it's just an immediate plug-in. To where with Kamara, Murray's the immediate plug-in. But like you're saying, Kamara plays through it a lot. So that's tough. That's hard. And you're just stuck starting Kamara because it's Kamara. And you have to.
And then that's the week Murray has 30 points.
Yeah.
And Murray's on your bench, even if you have him, because Kamara was playing.
Exactly. So, all right, a couple more things here. Obviously, last week, David Montgomery carted off the field. There was a bunch of noise about that really early. It was, non-contact injury. He's done for the year. Turns out to be a groin strain. I actually haven't heard what grade level it is. Maybe our Bears fan behind the scenes here can tell me if he knows. But it's just one of those David Montgomery wasn't really high on my board anyway. I know a lot of people liked him because of the volume he was getting, but now with this, like I'm really just dropping him on my rankings pretty hard. Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, he's one of the guys that I was actually targeting when I would go receive like top end receivers early just to get a safe volume running back.
Yeah,
just so I can put in every week.
250 carries, sure.
Right, he's gonna be 10 points every week. Compliment my elite receivers. Now I want Cohen more than him for sure in any PPR setting, just because I mean that kind of soft tissue, like you said, that could nag him all season.
Okay. 6 to wait, what? 6
2 to 4 weeks.
2 to 4 weeks. Okay. All right. Sorry. All right.
Oh.
Sorry, man. You said that a little weird, man. Just don't yell at me on the mic, man. It's fine. All right. Quick last ones here. We got 4 more quick ones. Tyrell Williams out for the year. You know, a lot of people going, oh, Brian Edwards. You know, I kind of like Brian Edwards in the first place. I wasn't really drafting him in a lot of places, but I think he had talent. I don't really know if I'm loving this offense in general. I don't. Besides Jacobs in Waller,
Honestly, I think Jacobs could see an uptick from this.
Yeah,
just because they can't stretch the field as much, and so they're going to have to dump it off maybe more because he was. I mean, I guess Ruggs is still there, but who knows where that's going to go? Rookie, no preseason. I could see Jacobs getting an uptick. I don't think it's going to be Waller, but I mean, I'm hoping it's Jacobs. I really like him as a player.
Yeah.
I'm not drafting as much because I don't really see him catching 40 balls like they keep saying.
Yeah.
But
I've heard 60.
I have seen multiple times the theory that Gruden's mad he didn't win Rookie of the Year. And so Gruden is crazy enough to push an agenda like that and make sure he catches 40, 50 balls. So let's see on that one.
So the next one here is Mohamed Sanu. Kind of surprised, man. Cut from the Patriots. I don't think a lot of people saw that one coming. He was a second-round pick trade last year for them. That's quite possibly the worst trade Bill Belichick has ever made. I mean, yikes.
It's pretty bad. I think you saw how much they paid and gave up for Antonio Brown and Mohamed Sanu, and the production they got was pretty alarming.
Yeah.
But Julian Edelman.
N'Keal Harry,
who else is gonna throw to?
N'Keal Harry. I like it. I like it, dude. And him and Cam were actually working on the side before camp started. So I think there might be something there. That's a guy who later on I'm taking a chance on as just like a flyer pick.
Right.
Once I've got my established guys, if N'Keal Harry kind of is in that range where I'm like looking at a receiver and he's sitting there like, yeah, I'll take him. I
don't mind him. But I think the Sanu target loss goes more toward Edelman and probably James White more than it would. Harry's was locked in. Now Edelman probably gets more than I'm going to bump him up my projections for sure.
Yeah, I can buy that. Little beat writer talk here. The Packers apparently want MVS to be their number 2. So all that Alan Lazard talk early on may be a little overblown, but I'll believe it when I see it. I was telling Jeff earlier, I was like, because he mentioned this one, I was like, so yeah, I mean, that's what we hear every year, right? Until he drops 2 passes in the first game, and then Aaron Rodgers is dead to me and just throws with the Adams all game. So
yeah, I was lower on Adams beginning of the preseason. He's got to be number 2, I think now to me. I think he's gonna have 200 targets. Like,
I don't see how he does it.
We never see him as the number 1 for the whole season when he's never dealing with injuries. If he's fully healthy over 16, I think he's going to lead the league in targets more than Michael Thomas. Just because there's nothing else.
I could see that for sure. And then the last one here from beat writer in Carolina, Curtis Samuel, not very impressive this year. So far in camp, he was dealing with a little bit of injuries, but he's just looked really bad. So I guess Robbie Anderson gets a boost and Samuel moves down your board. I mean, I don't know what else to do here. I mean, Samuels is looking pretty poor. Like, I mean, I'm not really targeting either one of them. It's all DJ Moore to me, but
Robbie Anderson in best ball maybe, just because he'll have 2 or 3 games with 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. But
I know some people that are big Curtis Samuel truthers, so
I'm not one.
You gotta mention it just because of those people. Like, I just want to buy into.
I never was really into him. He was more of that's all they kind of got play, and now he's not all they got. So
yeah, they got Robbie Anderson to do almost the same thing.
Exactly.
so
I have seen that he's the Christian McCaffrey handcuff, which I guess I could kind of see that, but I think Mike Davis is really that now. But either way, to me, it's one of those. If McCaffrey goes down, you're just screwed. So no one's gonna replace
that team's
anything
done.
you need. Yeah, no one's gonna replace what you can get. So you might as well just pack it in.
Agree with that. So, all right, man. Well, I think that's all we've got for the show. I want to thank you for coming on and sticking around for the whole thing. It was a good time. So,
well thanks for having me.
And let Jeff close it out.
Cheers.